Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Taking America Camping, brought to you by TNS RV and Sport. My name is Tim Meadows, as always, coming to you from TNS RV and Sport in Navasota, Texas. Joined today by Tex and Matt, coming to us from Bryan, and our very special guest today, our brother in arms here, Mr. John Willenborg from VANS. And correct me if I'm wrong, John, you're in Mesa today.
Yeah, we're down just south of Phoenix in Arizona.
Awesome. So John is the CEO of VANS, and their specialty is in the adventure van space and in the upfitting part of that. So you take a van that is manufactured, sold retail, and Owl steps in and they take these units into their shops and through they implement a bunch of proprietary equipment, and they upfit these things and make them the bad boys that you see out on the road. It's a great relationship that we've had the good fortune to make with John and the boys at Owl ever since we met earlier this spring. But John, if you would, man, kind of take us back, take us through a little bit the history of Owl Vans and your story, and it'll kind of help lay some of the context here for what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try not to bore people with my full life story, but try to stick to the more interesting parts. But kind of how I ended up here with Owl. I started out kind of doing the normal path. You know, my dad was a electrical engineer turned kind of Stanford MBA type in business, and the desk job never really worked for me. I went through the kind of the standard route, and all my friends were getting jobs in finance and moving to Manhattan and stuff like that. And meanwhile, in my summers between school, I would always go. I took ASC mechanics classes just to kind of learn how to wrench on vehicles just for fun. And then also my uncle was a Navy SEAL turned deep sea oil rig welder. So about as much of a badass as you can be. And so I would spend summers with him learning how to weld and fabricate and work on things. And if you think you work hard, go work for a Navy SEAL and you'll get humbled real fast. So he kicked my butt and taught me how to work with metal. And then, you know, I was living in Austin at the time and was doing a lot of motorcycle racing. So I was one of the first folks to have a Sprinter van, and I would go to the track in it. I'd use it as my vehicle to transport my motorcycles. And then I would sleep in it and wrench out of it, etc. And nobody really made anything that I felt was either good enough quality or made any sense from a monetary standpoint. The stuff was super overpriced and I didn't think it was very good. So built a lot of stuff myself. And then I would constantly get asked by people, hey, where'd you get that? Where can I buy that? And, you know, I said, well, you can't. I made it. And then they'd be like, can you make it for me? And I'd be like, no. And I would go on with my day. And then find me my previous business, which I actually made photography equipment for the Apple store. So worked directly with Apple. So that really helped me refine my aesthetics and my quality. Because, you know, if anyone knows, if you work with Apple, it's got to be as good a quality as possible. So
sure.
I ended up selling that business. And then I was like, you know, what should I do with my time? And I started making a lot more stuff for the Sprinter. And they always say it's better to be lucky than good. And so I'll take a win with timing. It was just kind of on the very beginning side of the whole adventure van segment. And I had started off making these tire carriers. And, you know, some folks online were like, hey, you should really think about turning this into a business. So I said, okay, enough people have asked me. I'll make like 20 of these things and then we'll call it a day. And then they were sold out in 24 hours.
Nice.
And I thought I had overpriced them. And so I'm like, wow, okay, I'll make a few more. And then they sold out in the next few days. So I said, okay, there's definitely untapped demand here. And I would say from that moment where I was keeping my neighbors wide awake early in the morning with my grinding and cutting and so on, to the point now where we have 7 locations and we're the largest aftermarket manufacturer for Sprinter vans, was about 6 years. So it's been quite a wild ride. And, you know, just here in Phoenix, and I don't say this to flex, more just because I'm blown away myself. You know, we've got close to 100,000 square feet of manufacturing and warehousing here. And then we've got our installation centers kind of all over the western half of the U.S. with our newest one in Austin.
Right.
And it's been a wild ride. It's been hard work. It's been super exciting. But I think the coolest part is just to see what's happening to this industry and taking an industry that's been around forever in the US, and that's, RVs and camper vans and trailers and every form of it, and seeing how those are kind of transitioning into what the customer wants today. And it's really exciting to be a part of.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Cool.
I think that the meteoric rise that you're describing is really admirable, because it's not something that's easy to take a business and take it to scale. We've dealt with that. We've had some times where success opens doors, but having to be measured, and we've talked about this on here in previous episodes, but having to be measured to make sure that expansion for the sake of expansion versus expansion at a pace and in a manner that allows you to honor your core values is a really it can be a tough mix, right? Because the people aspect of these businesses is the thing that you can't quantify on paper, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could come out here and say that, I was some business savant and I knew exactly the right rate to grow at and what to do, et cetera. But the reality of the situation is, I think that the natural born business person is a rarity, not the norm. And I think that we all get a lot of cuts and scrapes and bruises from past experiences and past companies. And you look back on it and you're like, this is how I would do it differently. And then, you come into a business and you do things differently, and hopefully that works out. And I think the key is learning from your mistakes. And then I'd say the other thing that happened to me is no one ever believes me when I want to do something. They always tell me that's a bad idea or that won't work. And, sometimes it is, sometimes they're right.
Yeah,
but the reality of the situation is, if you really believe, and not to wax poetic, but if you really believe in what you're doing and think it could be something, then what better way to do it than to be your own boss? Because I don't have anyone that's going to tell me it's not a good idea, because I'm just going to work my butt off until it works.
Sure.
Yeah, we've
Well,
seen,
and
we've
that
seen some of those
thought
similar
process
experiences.
that's outside of the box is always where the next innovative idea comes from. Everybody else is just following and maintaining, but they're not necessarily expanding if there isn't some outside of the box thinking, and that's where, in large part, when we met at the dealer meeting with Tiffin, and then we started looking at your product on the open trail, for instance. Heck, man, it was a perfect fit for our process. And then us being a bunch of gearheads, always messing with some kind of hot rod or, and that's really where this spans from. Like you mentioned, John, the, guys sitting there tinkering with this and that and making it better and bigger and faster and, that kind of thing. And then you take that concept and turn it into a business. So, that was in large part what interests us so much, being part of Owl's program, was just that next lifted truck and doing it better and applying the quality to the process. And then taking, a Tiffin mindset from a quality standpoint and adding to that, so because that's the thing that we've found with dealing with the Owl guys, is that the quality, the installation, your warranty you stand behind with the units that you've touched with your product, it fit perfect with what we were wanting to do. And then heck, the customers that we get to meet who want this product, I mean, it's like going to a car show each time. And, you never have a lack of conversation when you go to a car show, because you got a bunch of car guys standing around,
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's been an ideal scenario, and we've met some really cool people along the way interacting with these units. I mean, just the response that we've had and the demand that TNS has had, and then combining that with the demand that Owl has had, just keeping up with this demand. I mean, it literally occupied all of my time and then Tim's time as well. Most of last week was just structuring what we're doing with the OTX and keeping up with the people that are wanting the product and making sure we're satisfying their expectations, you know. So the jump has been just fantastic with the interaction and then the demand for this thing overall.
Yeah. And I'd love to jump in and talk about the OTX, but I don't want to gloss over something you said there. And I think it's important because it's been a real aspect, I think, that's been transformative in my life. And it's something that I tell kids all the time. We get high school kids coming through our facilities, and I always want to kind of be able to give them a path to being an entrepreneur, to being a business owner, and telling them that they don't have to get a 4.0 and go to Harvard to be a success in life. In fact, there's some people that are incredibly successful and they dropped out of high school. They were just super passionate. They didn't drop out because they're lazy. They dropped out because they're passionate and were driven to do something different. And I think that a lot of what makes folks successful is taking aspects of different industries and applying it. And I think one of the reasons that you all were able to instantly see why the OTX and why this changing market is going to be successful is because you said you're gearheads. So there's some folks that run dealers and RV centers because they're after the goal of making money and they want to move as many units as humanly possible. And then there are folks that use these things. They go out and, you know, they camp, they hunt, they fish, they take their kids on the weekends in these things, and they wrench on cars, and they understand that culture and they understand that customer. And so having that diverse background of things that you're into helps you see the next evolution of something, you know, as opposed to following in people's footsteps. So I was really excited when you guys saw the OTX, and to kind of describe to people that have no idea what an OTX is. So as I mentioned, as I kind of pre-ramble is the right term to use. Told you guys I can get a little talkative, but I'll give you a little background on OWL and how this came about. So
yeah, I think that's important.
We started off working on Sprinter vans, which for the RV world is Class B vans, but most people know them as adventure vans or Sprinter vans. And at this point, everyone's seen them on the road. Those are those badass vans with the stuff all over them, and they look half zombie apocalyptic vehicle, you know, half RV, and they're awesome. And then the Winnebago Echo came out, and what happened there is there was all of a sudden you had the drivability of a Sprinter, which was super easy for almost anyone to drive and feel comfortable. To be honest, it drives more like a minivan than it does a pickup truck.
That's right.
And so you've got that, and then you combine it with a little more space. And I said that there's something to that. There's something really cool about that, because Sprinter vans are awesome if you have tight spaces, but it is that. It's tight inside. So I used an Echo, and I really liked it. And I said, this is cool, but there can be something even cooler than this in between what an Echo is and what an Earth Roamer is. Because Earth Roamers, if you're not familiar with them, they are incredibly awesome looking, but they're also like $1 million. Right. And there aren't many people in the world that can just go out and drop $1 million on something they use a few times a year. So we decided, we talked to everybody under the sun and said, hey, we can do something that's kind of in between an RV and an Earth Roamer, and it'll really hit that spot where it's affordable enough for somebody that's got some disposable income, but it's way more capable and usable than an Earth Roamer. And so we built out what we called the Teton, which originally was a Winnebago Echo. And then we said, what does this look like if it did the Barry Bonds cream and the clear? And then, you know, it ended up all of a sudden on all these performance enhancers, if you will. And you have this just absolutely stunning rig that people just went nuts for. And the video went totally viral. And so we made a few of those, and same type of deal. They sold out in like 24 hours. And we said, we want to do this again, but we want to do it with an integration with the OEM, with the manufacturer, because Winnebago had nothing to do with the Teton. I mean, we bought that off the lot, and this is before the open trail from Tiffin existed. And then we got to know the guys over at Tiffin, and Trey and that whole program. And I was blown away with their ability to be fast moving and cut through bureaucracy and do stuff that was outside of the box. So I said, you know what, Tiffin is the right partner for Owl, because we're not big on bureaucracy. We're big on getting out and having fun. So we partner with them on the open trail, which is just that. It's a cab chassis Sprinter, and then it's got a big box on the back that's got plenty of room, can sleep plenty of folks. And it's really, really an amazing platform. And then we did the same thing. We said, what can we do with this open trail that's going to make it kind of a halo vehicle in this segment? And so we went through and took what they built, and we put on, a full coverage front winch bumper to protect from animal strikes, get you out of sticky situations with a, 13,500 pound winch. And then we went and upgraded the lighting so that when you're off trail, you can see what you're doing. We went from dually rear wheels, which, are great for hauling payload, but can be tough off-road because you get rocks caught between them and you get a lot of sidewall punctures. So we went to a super single, which allowed us to get the vehicle lifted fairly substantially up in the air with what we're calling a 6.3 suspension. And then, we went around and completely changed the aesthetics of the vehicle. And Tiffin hit a home run with the interior. And we said, what can we do to make this thing capable off-road? And that's where we focused our time. And then we went and added a bunch of rear carriers to the back to make it more functional, carry that spare for when you're off-road, carry additional, items that you want to have in your storage boxes, et cetera. So that's a long way of describing what we've ended up with, which I think is, monetarily a step below or two steps below an Earth Roamer. But as far as function, if given the two, I would actually take the OTX because it's so much more drivable. The tires aren't $7,000 each, and it doesn't weigh 30,000 pounds. So it's I think it's the perfect blend of all those things.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It is such such an aesthetically striking vehicle, right? I mean, it really. I think you told us when we were standing there in Nashville back in April, looking at the first time, you're like, man, you think you'd like it? Wait till you get people that have no idea, any kind of context or anything. Like, you can't get in and out of a fuel stop without, it turning into an OTX show.
And they get real friendly. They're like, let me come inside. You're like, I just want to get gas. Like, let me check it out. How big's the bathroom? And all of a sudden, before you know it, you have a line of people at the gas pump wanting to go, like, you mind if I lay down in the bed and see if I fit? I'm like, yeah, I do mind if you lay down in the bed. Can you not? So,
yeah,
right.
Well, my wife and I took one to, we took a GH1 with a stage 3 Owl package just to go and look at some different things in Colorado. And man, I'm telling you, just going down the road in that GH1, we had people pulling up beside us and videoing, and then they turn their phone around with a message on it, like, hey, that's super cool or whatever. And then, we stopped at Buc-ee's. It took us 30 minutes to get out of the parking lot because we had people all over it when we came back outside, and then we stopped at a couple tourist attractions and parked it up by the road. And the same scenario, the whole time there's like this crowd of people around the van. So because it, like you said, it has this road warrior look to it going down the road, and it just goes from van to super cool, Right. It's really, I was amazed. I mean, I've never had that kind of response going down the road in something if it wasn't, a classic hot rod or, something like that. So I was a little surprised by it, actually.
It taps into something,
right?
It taps into that kid side of you, that passion for adventure, just like a hot rod. If you ever see like a 7-year-old kid walk up to a classic car or something like that, and they've just got those huge eyes, and there's a blower sticking through the hood, and they're just blown away, pardon the pun, and they just absolutely fall in love with it. And I think there's something about that for the adults, back in the 80s Wolf of Wall Street days, it was all about you made money and you got a yellow, convertible Corvette and a really fancy watch. And that was how you flexed on people. And today's consumer is different. They don't want to flex on people. They want to go enjoy this beautiful country of ours. Mm-hmm. And to them, what what is exciting and interesting isn't being, you know, violated by a TSA member getting on a flight somewhere. Instead, it's loading the family into something on the spur of a moment and getting out there and spending the weekend at a river, just relaxing and enjoying, you know, this beautiful country. And I think that when they see these, their mind starts going with all the things they could and would and should do with this.
Sure.
And there's something there that brings out the little adventurous kid in us that I love.
Well, and you get into these rigs and it's a matter of the person that is calling, they love to talk about them. So it's always a long conversation, and which is good. And then, but it's the guy that likes overkill, guy or the lady, the person that just loves overkill, to be overly prepared. Like, you know, you show up in the OTX and it's like, I know you asked me to lift 200 pounds, but I trained for 400. So let's just lift 400, you know? And so sure. I brought a little more than I needed each time, you know? So that's the person that's just jumping all over the OTX. Cause like I said, it's a severe case of overkill, but if overkill is your norm, well, then that's just average for you, you know? So it's really, again, it's the gearhead guy. You know, if your car makes 1,000 horsepower, you only need 1,100 if your buddy has 1,200. So, you know, it's the same scenario.
Yeah, I would validate what you guys both said from my experience and the conversations with our our existing OTX customers, is that there is an overwhelming sense of, we want to be able to get out and go and see and have absolutely no restrictions. You know, plan for the unplanned and be ready for the thing that you can't be ready for. This platform is giving them that opportunity, and they're so excited about it. You know, the uniqueness of it, the fact that you can't just walk on to any lot in America and grab one. You know, there's an air of exclusivity, which is really cool. And I think that lends itself to the allure and the prospect of, you know, having something that is so truly unique. We're really honored, I think there's no other way to say it, but honored to be in a position to be one of the very, very, very select few outlets through which a retailer or a retail customer can go to get an OTX. You know, and I think that we're excited about that. It's a continuation of the relationship that we've all formed, both here at TNS with you guys at OWL, a continuation of our relationship at Tiffin, and then now the budding relationship that has happened between you guys. And I think that I was explaining to one of these buyers on the phone last week, it's a convergence of like minds and like processes that is really, I think, another aspect of this whole thing that is truly unique, you know, because we're a small batch group. You know, we do high volume in the things that we mess with, but we don't have just everything under the sun. But we're committed, no matter what we're messing with, like, we're going to be the best and create the best experience. And so that convergence of the quality from Tiffin with a motorhome to begin with, excuse me. And then with OWL, the quality of the product, the install, the standing behind the product, it's really brought a very unique situation to bear. And so let's talk a little bit about how does someone that's interested in this, how do they go about, you know, the process of getting themselves on the list and getting one of these vehicles secured? Yeah,
well, I mean, one of the cool things that about this is what you said, is that it's limited and it's rare, and we don't violate that. So we create a number that we think is going to be able to sustain some demand, but unfortunately it's going to leave some people wanting. And we do that because, you know, we love doing this and we want it to be fun and we don't want it to be boring. And, you know, it's like that first bite of cake is delicious, and the 100th bite makes it feel a little bit sick. And we don't want to get to that point where these things are sitting on lots or oversold, or losing that kind of uniqueness and that the part of this vehicle that makes it so special. And so we said, just like Porsche does with their GT3 RSs or whatever that they're selling at their dealerships for massive amounts over sticker because nobody can get them. And while we're not, a sell above MSRP type of deal, we also don't want to make it super common. So what we wanted to do was only work with dealers and manufacturers that get it, because I don't want somebody walking someone around and be like, and look at this RV. This is I think this is a Tiffin, but it's got some stuff on it. It's like, no, that's not our jive. So we want somebody to be passionate about the amount of time, effort, and work that everyone's put into this, between working with Tiffin on the overall layout, which we did, and not trying to steal any of their thunder. It's very much their vehicle, but they brought us in early on to give feedback on some early prototypes. And then we put all our work into making it even more capable off-road. And then we talked to them, and then had our own experience with some dealers. And we said, who are the right partners? And for us, it was 2 dealerships. And you guys were right there at the top of that long list that we sorted it down from. So there's only 2 spots in the country, TNS being one of them, where you can get these things. And we did that because we want to make sure that everything can be communicated between telling our story, understanding how these things are built, why they're special, to that feedback loop where we know that you guys are going to take care of the customer. And if they have any issues, you can feed that back to us, and we can make better products and better gear. So that's why, for me, it's not about capturing every last dollar. It's about making something special, because, we make enough money to keep food on the table, but we'd rather do something that makes us excited to come into work than to just be churning things out.
No, absolutely. And that's in large part where, just to kind of go back to what you started with there, I see just the OTX, but there's other models, of course, that you guys are developing. But that's very much like, the ZR1 Vet or the GT500 when it first came out. All of that stuff that's very unique, and they're out there, but they're not out there in abundance. And that's very much what this is. It's a Yenko Camaro. This, if, especially for a car guy, back to the late 60s, there was Yenkos, and those rigs came from a dealer, and from Chevy to a Chevy dealer. And then Yenko started the conversion. This is exactly what that was. And then they, it came in as a really nice big block Camaro, and it left as the street machine, so there's a lot of lineage into all of this process, which just makes it more fun for us.
Well, I think that's the way a lot of great partnerships have started.
Right.
I mean, I think the list of aftermarket shops that have become kind of entrenched with some of these OEMs and their special editions is kind of a long storied history. And I think it's just that natural evolution of, it takes a big company to create the vehicle itself because of the complexities and the cost and the development, the testing. But then it takes the nimble, dynamic, and too many head injuries thinking of the aftermarket company to be able to create something, I think, really wild. And so I think it's that marriage works really well, where you've got a company with too much bureaucracy to really go crazy, but then you've got someone who's a little bit crazy, but he doesn't have the size to build the entirety of the thing. So I think those two together, like you just said, I mean, there's so many aftermarket companies that have been, I think AMG started out on its own, and then Mercedes bought them or brought them in. I think Celine and
Roush,
and Shelby, and all of those kind of independent shops that have done amazing things with off-the-shelf vehicles. And that's what we want to be for the camping industry.
Well, that, and again, you think of what the initial thought process was with a Roush or a Shelby or a Yenko. I mean, there was a guy at a dealership that said, this is a nice car, but I can make it better, you know, and then they launched with it, you know what I mean? So let's turn this thing up. And that's where, and then the guy goes, well, you know, it's like, why do you buy it? Why do you shoot a 45? Well, they don't make a 46, you know? So, so it's that exact same process. You just take a killer unit built well and then turn it up, you know? So, and that, you know, again, that's the excitement of what we're doing here. And then, you know, John, a credit to you and your team as a whole with Owl. You have to then take that and create the quality that you're passing on to your buyer. Because the guy or lady who buys this unit, well, they're productive in some capacity financially.
Absolutely.
They don't have time to go and fix it every time they want to use it, you know, so they buy it that way, turnkey. Kind of leading into that, John, could you cover a little bit of your warranty process with the items that you install?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, look, our warranty process is really simple and cost effective for us, and that is build a really good product, and you don't really have to worry about warranty. So we're pretty open and lax with our warranty stuff. I mean, we have our standard warranty, you know, 3 years, 36. But truth be told, I mean, I've warrantied stuff that I literally welded myself and installed myself in the first few months that Owl existed. You know, they come in having had it on their vehicle for 5 years and a couple 100,000 miles, and they've got some part that's starting to wear out. And I'm just like, you know what? We don't even make parts for this anymore. So I'll just upgrade you to the newest, latest, and greatest. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where, do we have problems? Absolutely. Every company does. And anyone that tells you that they don't is full of it. But yeah, I think how you take care of those problems, and you can't make every single person happy, but all you can do is everything in your power to try to do right and do what you think is honest and ethical. And that's kind of how we operate. And so, you know, knock on wood, we've never really had any sort of major failure with any of our parts, going on 6 years and millions of customer miles. Sure, we've had things break and this and that, and we've had some bad runs of, really, it comes down to sometimes things outside of your control. You know, we had a few products that went bad from a bad run of material where there was a weak spot in the aluminum. Sure. And so we had some small tabs break, but that's it, small tabs. And we swapped out the entire unit. So when somebody purchases one of these vehicles, we're always here. And if you drive into an Owl location, one of the things that I've gone over ad nauseum with our customer service staff is, you are there to support the industry, not Owl. And so what I mean by that is, if they come in with a problem, whether it's our part or not, I want you to do everything you can to help solve that problem for them. And, you know, it doesn't mean we're going to be doing like oil changes for free, but it means that if they come in with a problem with a part that's gone bad, it's not even our part, it's a Mercedes part, and we got a friend at a dealership down the road and we know he can get the part quickly or whatever, we'll help him out. So I think that pays dividends. It's playing the long game. You guys know that if you sell someone a bad unit, you'll make money today, but in the long run, you're going to be out of business. And so anybody that wants to have a long sustained business and a storied history like yourselves knows that you're not just taking care of this customer today, but you're taking care of that customer and your reputation in perpetuity. So that's kind of one of the reasons I liked aligning with you all. And that's kind of how we manage our warranty stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, you bare bones, common sense, you know, that's not as easy to find anymore. And, you know, and that's also the reason, like from a TNS standpoint, why we're not a 10 location operation. I mean, because you can't keep that hands-on, one-on-one touch with people like we do. And to Matt's credit, you know, Matt, like Tiffin, for example, as a whole, but as soon as someone is committed to a Tiffin and they're purchasing from us, the next step for us is Matt reaches out to that person just to make sure that we're starting that service relationship. Now, they may not get their unit for another 60 to 90 days, depending on the, you know, the situation and the build and whichever, but they already understand that we have that in place. And And, every time we run, overall, 300 units a month through service just in Navasota and Bryan alone. And just through the service department, that's not sales. So are we going to have one somewhere that if we miss something on it, it could be, but we'll go back and make it right. Even if we didn't miss it, it might've been something in addition to what we repaired, but we'll still go back in and make it right. So, but that gets back to what you're talking about, where you don't have a lot of the corporate red tape that slows the process down, so, and again, that's what makes this such a fantastic match. And frankly, even from a Tiffin standpoint with Lee and Trent and the whole team over there, man, we can do the same with those guys. Hagen, Jerry, we call those guys up and we have something going on. We need some help with something. Greg, they jump right on it. And then we get some things handled quickly. We don't have to wait for a board meeting to get something handled.
I mean, that's one of the reasons we work with Tiffin. We met with them, we met with Lee, and we were talking to a number of OEMs and deciding who we want to work with, and kind of, I always end meetings just trying to understand what the next steps are, so we keep the ball moving down the field. And I asked Lee, I go, what's next? Who do we talk to make this move forward? We're excited, et cetera. He goes, who do you talk to? Me. And he didn't say it in an egotistical way. It was just a very matter of fact. He's like, I'm Lee Tiffin. And he didn't say it like that, but he's just like, I make the decisions around here. So I like it. We move forward. And it was just that simple. And I was like, I like this, somebody who just made a decision and now we move forward, as opposed to, somebody, I got to show this to this part of the company. And then legal's got to look at it and this. And once someone says legal's got to look at it, you're dead in the water, because legal, we call it CYA, which is cover your, what. And that's what legal does. They say no to everything, because if they ever say yes and something goes bad, they get terminated. But if they say no to everything and you produce 0 products and sell 0 campers, well, they're happy, because they
never have a problem.
Yeah, they never have a problem, because no one holds them accountable to lost revenue. So, I'll go off on a side tangent here, and I'm sorry I'm ruining the timing of your podcast, but
no, not at all. We always try and limit the timing. It just never does happen.
But my dad was, I think, one of the reasons that we've been successful is has a lot to do with my dad, just because he's a little bit of an odd duck, but he had some very kind of important things in the way he saw business that I had never thought of and would have never thought of. So he had he was one of the first computer supply catalog companies that eventually, turned into kind of Office Depot, et cetera. And so he was early on in the 80s, and he had a credit department that came to him one quarter and they said, you know what? My dad's name is Jim. He said, Jim, we had 0 bad debt this quarter. And the whole credit team was super excited or whatever. And my dad looked him straight in the eye and he said, you do that again and you're all terminated. And they're like, huh? And he goes, if you had 0 bad credit, 0 defaults, that means you are being way too strict with who you're offering credit to, which means we're leaving a ton of sales to good customers who would have paid their bills on the table. He goes, you have to have, X percentage of bad debt next quarter, or you all find new jobs. And it was that kind of outside the box thinking of, how do I align motivations with someone who their motivation is not necessarily in line with the company's motivation? Because the credit department's motivation is to not ever get yelled at for having somebody not pay back a loan.
Right.
But in reality, that's not what's best for the business. What's best for the business is having a certain amount of people that actually do default, because then you're not turning down actually good paying customers who would pay their loans. So it's those kind of things that are fairly brilliant that I never would have thought of myself. And so that's kind of the way I feel about like legal and credit and all this stuff. And I even tell the quality department, I go, look, Ashley runs all of our manufacturing quality. And I go, how many of our units have been rejected because of a scratch or this or that? And she looks at me, she goes, 0. And I go, okay, well, let's make that a few. I'm like, let's not lower the quality, But if we're sending out products and we've never had one of them end up scratched or something like that, then that we might be taking twice as long to box products, which means only half of our customers get our product that want it, you know? And I'll deal with the one customer that unfortunately may end up with one unit that's scratched. And maybe this sounds bad to say out loud, but in reality, a scratched unit's not a bad unit, and we're happy to replace it. But if we're taking so long that out of thousands of products, not a single product has a cosmetic defect, then we're not able to fulfill orders fast enough to make people able to go on their adventures.
Sure. Well, and like you say, that it's funny you mentioned that with Lee, excuse me, that because it was the same interaction that Lee and I had when I went up there to see them at the office the first time, because it was the same thing. I walked in as a referral from some of the Tiffin guys, but Lee didn't know me at all, you know, and we just sat down and ran through the TNS backstory and what we do. He knew of us on the towable side because we sell a lot of units. And because when I walked in, he goes, "Oh yeah, you're the guy that sells all the fifth wheels," you know? So that was all that he knew of us, you know? And then when we got through, he goes, "Man, I like the story. We just need to figure out how we can get you signed up," you know? And that was the process, you know? So that, you know, again, I bring that up because it's the mesh of the Tiffin Owl TNS configuration here that really has a unique fit and finish to it, you know? So yeah, that's it's really, it's a fun process. Cause again, it's like, you know, we could go on for hours with this cause you get a couple car guys that are talking about toys, you know? So
I'm trying to figure out how to wrap up here without just taking this thing completely off to the side with all the questions that I still have in my head.
Well, there's going to be a lot more too.
And we're going to
have
again.
Several of these that when we get together with where we are in this process. So
for sure, I think that right now there's two things that have come up consistently in these kind of first level conversations with these OTX customers. And the first is a clarification, if you would, on, you know, the flexibility or lack thereof in the OTX package itself, but the opportunity and the open door to go beyond what is involved with the OTX.
So the OTX, we're pretty sacrosanct about what our Halo vehicles are, and that's what they are. And it's just, we're not going to get into this whole thing of I want this, but I want that or whatever. Like, nope, this is the Halo vehicle. And if you don't want it, that's totally fine. If you want to go another route, and we have customers all the time and they're like, I want the OTX, but I don't want, you know, I want the this and the that and change this. And I go, well, that's not OTX. So we're happy to take care of you and we'll build you what you want and it'll be badass. But the OTX is the OTX. Now, if somebody wants to add items to it, that's their prerogative, because at the end of the day, I know that, you know, I'm not going to be one of these people like, you know, Ferrari has these famous things where they ban people. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but if you like, I don't know, Ferrari only offers cars in certain colors, and these YouTubers get these cars and then they like paint them like metallic gold or something. And Ferrari like, you are a band, no more Ferrari for you. And so then those people can never buy a Ferrari again. Right. And that's not who we are. If you want to buy an OTX and personalize it, you're more than welcome. And I know that you guys can help facilitate that, because we've got a location that's going to be building those vehicles out of Austin, not too far from you all. And I know you guys have a good relationship with that location already. So if somebody wants an OTX and they go, you know what, I want this, but, you know, I want to install, you know, satellite, or I want to install underglow so that everybody at the campsite is kept up all night by my strobe lights. You know, whatever you want to do, you know, the team out there can help you out. But yeah, we don't want to be too controlling, but we're also not going to water down a Halo vehicle for a customer. So if somebody wants something lighter duty, they just come to you guys and they're like, I want an OTX. And then they can come into us, or, you know, there are, I hate to say it, unfortunately, but there are other upfitters around the world. So, you know, if we aren't close to you or we don't make sense, that's okay. You know, there are other folks out there you can get stuff done from, but We like to think our stuff is the best. And, yeah.
Yeah. So, and we have a really unique, you mentioned earlier, sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good. And we have some pretty unique circumstances that I can chalk up to, maybe it's luck, maybe it's some kind of divine intervention, but that, we are almost the exact prescribed distance from door to door from the shop in Austin where a unit is upfitted, and say it has a suspension upgrade and it's all aligned and everything there at the shop. And then the distance from that shop back to our shop is almost to the 10th of a mile, that prescribed distance for the retorque. That is part
Perfect.
of the essential process to maintain the warranty of that install, right? So, like we have this unique scenario where I picked up a van on Friday from the Austin shop. It had the 4.3 Falcon suspension upgrade done to it. So
Yep.
we pull it into here to the shop Saturday morning, and it goes directly into a bay where all of the process is followed for the retorque, all of the all the documentation, the photos and everything. And we go through and we do all that so that van is literally ready for a customer to jump in and head off toward the adventure without having to worry about, I actually live this way and the shop is back that way. How am I going to get all this stuff, recertified? So we're able to handle those things before the customers take, before they even take delivery of these vans. And part of that is good fortune for us, and part of it is we're doing some of these things proactively, right? We're bringing vans over to the shop and having them outfitted before they're sold. We've done it a lot of different ways. We've done those proactive. We've done the customer buys one, and then we can facilitate getting it to the shop, having everything done, getting it back here, and getting it all retorqued and set up. And the advantage to that is that the customer can have one transaction, because the beauty of the way that you've structured the ability for us to do business with you is we can do business with you at the same price that the customer can do business with you.
Yep.
And so we can help with that and have it all done. So, which works for us because if we relied on our local business only, especially in the adventure van space, it would never get off the ground. So we're bringing people in from North Carolina and Boston and, the Pacific Northwest and California and all points in between, and able to bring people in. They're able to do one transaction for a van plus the upfit, and it be certified as actually already having been retorqued and everything is in line. So your warranty is in place. So we've got some things that are really working to our advantage. The fact that you had opened the doors literally on that shop in Austin less than 2 weeks before we met you.
Crazy.
Was like, hey man, I don't know, what did we do to deserve this? But whatever it is, we need to do more of it because this is really, really, really good. Yeah. But the crew that you've got there in Austin, John Wright, and I'm not sure if Mark's actually on the ground over there anymore. I know he's got some.
He moves around a lot, so he's our traveling wizard. So he goes where is needed. So he may still be in Austin. He might have moved around to another shop to add some help, but we have a bit of seasonality. And yeah, they're a good crew. And one thing you touched on there that I think people might not really think about is you've got 3 manufacturers involved with this vehicle. And so you've got Mercedes, you've got Tiffin, you've got us. And then, you've got TNS selling the end result. Sure. And one of the aspects that people don't think through before they purchase is I know this sounds morbid, but we joke around that people want a throat to choke. And that means when something goes wrong, they can come in and tell one person, hey, fix this, make it right. And the fact is with a lot of folks, they would, because we're working so closely together and it's all pre-sale, they can come to you all and be like, this isn't right. And you're not going to be like, oh, well, the part that's broken is behind a shock that Owl put on. So we can't get there to fix that, even though that's a Tiffin warranty thing, or that's an Owl warranty thing, but there's this cabinet in the way. And that happens a surprising amount where someone has a Mercedes part that goes bad and they bring their Sprinter into a Mercedes and they go, well, the sliding door is bad, but we can't get to it because there's a dinette in the way and we didn't put that dinette in there, so we can't work on it. And then you get into this finger pointing situation where the customer's like, I just want my vehicle fixed,
right.
you know? And so that's not something that I think people think of pre-purchase, but they should. And the fact is, working with you all, whether they come into us or whether they come into you, we're all just going to fix it. And at the end result is that the customer is going to get back on the road, and then we'll sort it out after.
Right.
If it's our part, your part, whatever, we'll make it right between us and Tiffin or whatever. But at the end of the day, the customer is just going to get fixed and back on the road.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's just to really kind of put a bow on this first round of discussion about this. Let's talk about how someone can go about getting on the list, getting themselves in the queue, and their name in place to be the owner of a new OTX.
So we have a couple different ways. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. They can come in and visit you all, and they can get the process rolling that way. They can also reach out to us over the phone, or they can just go to our website. We have a deposit for an OTX. Because these are a limited run, we ask for a deposit because if we're going to hold a slot for you, that means we're probably gonna hold that slot away from someone else. Right. Now, in the past, we've never had a problem where if someone backs out last minute, we have a wait list. We typically can move that vehicle onto someone on the wait list. But needless to say, you can put down a deposit on our website. They can go direct to you and put down a deposit either in person or I'm guessing over the phone as well. And then what that does is that makes sure that they secure one of those limited editions, and they go on the list, and then they go in the build queue according to when they ordered. So trying to make it as simple and as straightforward as possible. And I believe we're starting to go into production on these things here in the next couple of weeks. So
yeah, it's right around the corner, around the corner. And so that everybody understands, there's, from our aspect, both with the ones that we have sold and then the ones that have come into OWL that have been pushed our way, we have there's a bit of a multi-step process, because we're taking a Tiffin motorhome that does have a limited amount of selections that have to be made. There's a few things about that base open trail that becomes the OTX that are proprietary and have to be sorted at pre-production at Tiffin to make sure that it is exactly the layout and whatnot that customer wants. So we go through that process. That truck is ordered. And then once the truck comes in, then we're facilitating the move over to you and your team. And we have all that stuff pre-done and pre-scheduled. And we will have had another bit of discussion and whatnot with the customer that if we're taking it to the OTX, which is our, the minimum that's going to be done to it. And then if there's anything that they want to do beyond in that initial, stop, that one first build, we can get all those things ironed out, get the processes, get the pricing, get everything on order, so that build out on the Austin side of things at the shop can be done as efficiently as possible. So absolutely, and we've started that process with this first round of customers, and I think that Tex, we've talked about this before, but now that this has been kind of green lighted as of midweek last week, probably by the end of the day today or tomorrow at some point, we will have some OTX slots, some units that are made available on our website, so that customers can make specific inquiries to those and get themselves on the list through, like you mentioned, through the OWL site or calling into OWL, but through our site as well. So we're really thankful to be a part of this project, man. We're looking forward to really big things and just the absolute one-off nature of these things when they come in, and being the guy at the fuel stop en route between here and Austin. I just took the base open trail over there on Friday for one that we have sold. It's not going to become a full OTX, but I couldn't get to a red light without everybody staring out of the windows and
it is not
traffic. And it was just as bad when I was leaving in an outfitted GH1. They all want to check it out. So
yeah, if anybody ever wanted to know what it's like to be Brad Pitt for a day,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's. And we have a
really cool set of wheels because this face isn't stopping traffic.
Well, and we have a really good problem in that we're figuring out how to satisfy our open trail clients, because every open trail is occupied to go get the OTX package.
Right.
So those are always good problems to have. But
Totally.
so, the momentum is there, and we're starting to just what we figured we'd be doing here. We're running on an hour with this kind of shot by. So what we'll probably do is go ahead and wrap up, and then within the next, couple weeks or so, we're going to have a lot more to talk about again. So if we could, John, we'd love to have you back on.
Yeah,
and then we'll just continue to cover the process as we're going through, the open trail, the GH packages that we have. The GH2 is also going to have an upfitting package. And so we have a lot that we're going to be able to talk about. Yeah, exactly. And then we'll, but it's all exciting. It's all fun stuff. So, but so we don't give this one too long, we probably need to go ahead and wrap up and get ready for the rest of the day. And then we'll, like I say, we'll do this again in a week or two. And we'll have several of these. So for people who are watching, there's going to be a lot more information coming out.
A lot more to come. And so before we let you go, John, can you just tell us or tell everybody that's listening how to find you guys, how to find OWL, whether it's, website, social media, all that, because I know you guys are everywhere. But
yeah, you can go to owlvans.com. Pretty easy one there. And then you can also go on YouTube. I think we have I think it's OWL Off-Road on YouTube, but if you just search OWL Vans or OWL Videos, we have a pretty big YouTube channel, and we do our best to put up a ton of videos. A lot of them are educational, so it's not some sort of like self-serving sales thing. Now, we do highlight our own products, but we also highlight a bunch of other people's products. We talk about off-roading in these things in general. So it's a really great place for people to learn about what this world is like if you're new to it. And then also, you're totally welcome to call into an OWL location. All our phone numbers are on there. And like I said, we're about the community, so we're happy to chat with you. Even if you just have questions about pre-purchase, welcome to reach out to you all and answer questions about pre-purchase, about adventure vans in general. We're here for you.
Awesome, man. Well, we're looking forward to the things that are to come. Like I said, this is just scratching the surface. We've got some other Halo projects that we know are coming down the line, and then just anybody that's got a van out there and you want to make it into that badass vehicle, just go check these guys out. And I'll do some work today. I'll find all those particular links for OWL and put them in the show notes, and cool. and maybe even try to link in a few of the videos that have been shot on the prototype OTX and whatnot.
Absolutely.
So, dude, we thank you for being here, man. We really do look forward to having you back.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Tim, you want to wrap us up?
I will, guys. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you today for the chance to come together with new friends. Lord, in a time of great consternation and unrest and things in our nation, we thank you for putting things like this in our lives, something that's positive, things that allow us to focus on doing work that would make you proud. Lord, we ask that you would continue to watch over everybody that's assembled here today and their teams that aren't here exactly with us, but Lord, watch over, bless their hands as they do the work and find ways to fill the needs of customers. Lord, we ask that you would continue to bless us with opportunities, keep our eyes and hearts open to see those and to find ways to serve you. We ask all these things in your name and through our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, John. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You have a